Let's talk about denials. Most vets take the first no as the end of the road.
That's a mistake right there. A denied claim does not mean it's over. It just means strategy is needed.
So you're saying it's not about being wrong, it's about presenting the evidence the right way.
Exactly. You need the right documentation, the right wording, and sometimes even the right timing. That's what we help you with.
Wow, so this is why working with someone who knows the system makes all the difference.
You serve your country. Don't let paperwork stop you from getting what you earn.
Kenneth, you know what bothers me? Most veterans have no idea what benefits they're leaving on the table.
I see it every day. Benefits for conditions they never claim, compensation for dependents that they have, and education and also healthcare access that they qualify for.
Wow, now we're talking about thousands of dollars. This is just not pocket change. That's why we created this platform to educate and empower.
Stop missing out and start learning.
Hello and welcome to the Prepare to Compete podcast, where we talk all things VA benefits, real estate, entrepreneurship, and more. And I'm your host, Kayvon Jones, civilian patriot, business strategist, and advocate for veterans everywhere.
And I'm Kenneth Davis, again, Navy veteran, Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom, former VA Raider, and again, your guide to all things VA.
So Kenneth Davis, man, how you been feeling? You know, we're here in a new studio. We have a lot of new things going on. We have a new release for you guys. We are releasing the ebook, Maximizing VA Benefits. And that's what we're going to talk to the veterans about today.
Yeah, so really, this is really exciting, right? One thing that I always desired was a resource, right? As a veteran, you always want to have some type of resource that you always can look back to always be able to support you through your process, whether if it's your claim process, whether it's your VA housing process, whether if it's any type of process that's ever going to be needed, you always want to have a resource. And I think this is going to be very valuable for our community.
Absolutely. So today we're going to take you chapter by chapter, talking about all the points that we cover in that ebook. Now, in our learning center, through our app that's currently available in the Apple App Store, and we're still working for you Android users to get it in Google. We'll definitely have it there. Of course, you can still access it on your computers, whether it's a Apple device or not, right? But we're going to actually do a full breakdown and really add a lot more value and context in that our learning center, and have a particular course that supports the basic content that we have in that ebook. So definitely very excited to give you the basics right now and to dive further later on within our learning center community there.
And let me tell you guys, listen, this learning center is going to be very impactful in so many different ways, right? It's uncovering layer after layer after layer of benefits that's going to be able to support you. So really dive into the learning center and again, join and enjoy the community, because if you don't now, guess what? At that point, there may be things you may miss out on. We don't want to be able to miss out on some of those offerings for you.
Absolutely. So now we want to start off here by starting you off with the basics, right? You know, definitely need to know what are VA benefits. And we want to talk to you about just asking Kenneth, because he is definitely the expert here. What do VA benefits actually include, and how our veterans can kind of understand just beyond the disability rating and compensation there?
Wow. There's so many benefits for you guys, right? I'm going to tell you this. When we're actually navigating the benefit sector, we're talking about there are benefits in regards to insurance. There's benefits in regards to supporting education, right, outside of the GI Bill. There's benefits that's going to be supporting, obviously, the VA home loan benefit and entitlement, right? There's also benefits that is even going to support your family members to be able to get education and healthcare and dental as well. There's so many different benefits to unpack. Let me tell you, it's not only in regards to disability compensation, there are even statewide benefits as well that we really want to kind of uncover for you guys as well.
No, absolutely. So now when we're talking about the different types of benefits, again, veterans are always concerned about that monthly compensation, right? And, obviously they're able to do that because you're able to support your family a lot of times, especially with the higher thresholds of that. But, something that's unique and, I see a lot of times is that with those disability percentages, actually understanding the VA math there, right? And just understanding how much compensation there are able to get at that monthly basis.
Yeah. So when we're talking about what you can receive as veterans in regards to the disability compensation, let's really unpack that, right? The disability compensation, what it is, it's a tax-free monetary benefit that is offered to veterans for any type of injuries that happen while in service. Well, let me tell you guys a quick tip. It doesn't only need to happen in service to be service connected. All right. So with that being said, you can actually receive disability compensation that have from injuries that is exacerbated from service, right? But now you can actually, when we're talking about the disability compensation scale and benefits, it ranges from 0% all the way to 100% and 10% increments. All right. Understand that 0% all the way to 10% increments. And there's our benefits for each and every percentage rating. All right. Just because you don't receive compensation doesn't mean that you don't receive a benefit. All right. But now with that being said, we have to understand there's compensation that is tacked on to each compensable rating. OK, and that's 10% or more. Now they go into 10% increments, as I must reiterate. However, each one is compensated in different factors, and they change each year, okay, based upon, obviously, the cost of living adjustments, which you can go check out our last video, which is see what you can actually receive for here to 2025.
No, absolutely. No, that's great with understanding the disability ratings. I know you talked about some other things there with healthcare, right? And now healthcare, very essential, obviously. And now when we're talking about veterans, it's such a vast group, right? We're talking about individuals that may have did one enlistment period, or they may have done a whole entire career. So now veterans who have retired, they're able to receive Medicare, privately, and different things of that nature. However, we want to talk about that and just understanding those veterans that are retired and receiving those medical benefits outside the VA, they also qualify for VA medical as well, or could potentially qualify for VA medical. So I just wanted you to just kind of give them a little bit on how veterans could potentially qualify for VA medical there.
Yes. Great question. I really want you guys to really understand this. VA medical, okay, also references VAMCs in whatever state that you're representing or city, okay, the VA medical centers, they are there for you guys, okay, in regards to receiving your medical care. But you have to access it, okay? If you're a retiree, we understand that you also receive TRICARE benefits as well, where you can be able to obviously receive treatment from TRICARE. But now you also have access to VA medical care as well. But on top of that, let's understand that veterans who are not retirees, you are able to receive access to VA medical care as well, okay? Whether if you're 0% or whether you're 100% disabled, you are actually able to receive VA medical care. But let me tell you, there are different priority groups, different factors that actually take part in how you are seen and also what co-pays that you pay. You may not pay any co-pays, all right? The PACT Act legislation that was enacted in 2022, August 10th to be exact, with the Biden administration, I want you to understand that PACT Act has opened up healthcare for millions. The PACT Act has opened up health care for millions of veterans, but you have to take advantage of it. And when we talk about health care is essential for any human that's living, but we also understand that with that health care, there's also pharmaceutical care, specialized treatments, and also treatments on regular primary care basis. So please don't allow that access to medical care go by the wayside.
Absolutely. No, good information there, right? And it's so hard sometimes for veterans to navigate the process of actually applying for these benefits, right? So, in the second chapter there, we talk about, how that process can be overwhelming. So what we want you to, I guess, talk about here with us today is what are some of the most important tips that you can give someone when starting the VA disability claims process?
So one of the most important tips, and I'm sure you guys have always heard me say this, right? If you have been tuned in to Prepare to Compete podcast, you know that Mr. Davis is going to tell you to have your records. Your service medical records, that are one of the first things that you want to access. That's one of the first things that you're going to want to make sure you obtain, okay? Keep track of all records, okay? It's very, very important, whether if it's, again, your medical records, whether it's your personnel records, whether if it's your DD-214, whatever, what have you, get access to them, okay? That is one huge tip that most veterans miss out on. And a secondary tip would be this, is that if, again, that you are denied your benefits, there's always action plans to be developed and how you can be able to receive those, okay? But you must kind of understand the ins and outs, ups and downs of how it works. Because if you don't, you need to get the help. You need to receive the assistance, all right? Let's not listen to the scuttlebutt talk. Tip number 3, let's listen to the professionals who are going to be able to assist you down that pathway, okay? Let's not hear what our buddy has to say or this. Listen, if you haven't went down the pathway of understanding and being and actually putting in the 10,000 hours, I'll tell you right now, 9 times out of 10, a lot of people are, if they can't provide a regulation of what they're telling you, it's probably not true. Because I can tell you right now, there's a regulation that's going to be stated with everything that we provide. Okay. Again, but we have a ton more tips in our learning center. Please come on down.
No, absolutely. So now you're talking about that scuttlebutt talk, right? And, there's a lot of different misnomers and kind of common myths that veterans have when applying for their benefits. So we definitely know there's a lot of misinformation out of there. And we want you to just educate our veterans listening here on the biggest myths and misconceptions when applying for their VA benefits.
Wow. I've heard some of the some of the most craziest myths, but one I will tell you guys is this: is that most veterans are automatically denied the first time. That's a huge myth, you guys. Okay, that's a huge myth. Not saying that veterans don't get denied wrongfully, okay, and unjustly. No, we're not saying that. However, there is specifically supposed to be no attitude, bias, or essential opinion provided within your claim that is going to negatively impact you based upon just you being a veteran. No, it's all going to be based upon evidential facts and proven linkage to service. Okay? So with that being said, we want to kind of scale back the understanding of that the VA is out to get us. It's not always the case, okay? Sometimes there are difficulties navigating the process, but I'll tell you right now, it is not just you. It is not just you. There's millions and millions of veterans who are actually going through the same issue that you're going through as well. So now get the support you need.
Absolutely. Definitely get that support, right? And I know we've talked about medical records and, having those and being able to always really have your file, right? You definitely want to always have your file before you're filing for your claim, because it's going to be an important step there. Now with that, you want to have much more documentation, right? And we're talking about myths and we're talking about different things that are out there in the community. Veterans are talking about Nexus letters, right? So we want you to kind of explain to us a little bit more, what is a Nexus letter?
Very simple, you guys. A Nexus letter is nothing but a medical opinion. Simple. Let's not overcomplicate it. Let's not make it what it isn't. It is simply a medical opinion provided by a medical provider. Black and white. Okay? Now, the issues that we go through that we're trying to get service connected isn't black and white. The issues that how we get it service connected isn't black and white. However, when we're talking about a Nexus letter, it is simply a medical opinion. That is it.
Okay, got it. Because a lot of people feel like a Nexus letter, hey, that's gold, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I need to get my condition service connected. So can you talk about whether it carries that kind of weight? And if it does, why is that so essential to getting certain conditions service connected there?
Well, there's so many different opinions. There's so many different factors when we're talking about being service connected. Just because you have a Nexus letter doesn't mean that you're going to be automatically service connected. That's not how it works, okay? When we're talking about 3 prongs of service connection, we're talking about incidents in service, we're talking about current diagnosis, and we're talking about a medical opinion, all right? That is the basic of the basics, okay? Outside of that, anything thereafter, that's when we're going into the weeds of things. So and just because you receive a Nexus letter doesn't mean, oh, this is golden, because who are you receiving the Nexus letter from? Is that probative weight is going to carry further or heavier than the VA's medical opinion? We don't know. There's so many different factors when you're talking about these things in regulatory manners that you must navigate and overcome to be able to get to the success of your case file. So, like I said before, each condition that is being claimed, we must figure out the best strategy that's going to be helpful for you. And how do you figure out the best strategy? Understanding the laws, understanding the regulations, understanding if it's a causative based upon what is in your records. Is it going to be something that we can actually even provide a Nexus letter for? Or if it's a Nexus letter even warranted? Because we know presumptive claims doesn't necessarily need a Nexus letter. But what we do understand is that we need to actually put ourselves in the time, place, and circumstance. So it's very, very concise on what's needed, but it's also a little convoluted on how we get there.
Absolutely. So now you mentioned different types of service connection, right? And, want to talk about secondary conditions here. Because obviously there may be situations where, hey, I hurt my left shoulder in service and I have that incident, but now my right shoulder bothers me as well. That would be considered possibly a secondary service connection. So I want you to kind of break down how secondary conditions are able to be service connected and what is usually classified as a secondary condition.
Secondary service connection, secondary conditions are, really something that is really caused by a current service connected condition. Okay. So veterans, let me tell you, when a decision maker or adjudicator comes across your desk and they see that your hearing loss has caused your right knee pain, it's an automatic denial. So let's make sure that we understand that when we're talking about the causative nature on how to go down that pathway to be able to get service connected, let's make sure that a pathway of understanding for those secondary conditions could actually be causative in nature. All right. So understand that secondary conditions, they happen very often. However, now let's travel down the pathway on how it could happen. Okay. Because there's a ton of secondary conditions. We can claim anything secondary based upon what we want to claim, but is it causative to be able to actually be service connected? That is the real key, right? That is the real key. And what supports that is definitely having your medical records with you.
Absolutely. And in gathering those records there, right, and applying for VA disability compensation, the goal for many veterans could be getting 100% permanent in total, right, which is just one classification of being 100% disabled there. Now, obviously, veterans aren't just going out to be 100% just because, hey, I want the financial gain. It's like, no, I've really dealt with some things from service and I really feel like I should be compensated at the maximum amount possible. Now, however, there's various different possibilities of becoming 100% disabled. Now, can you talk to us about the different ways that a veteran can be considered 100% disabled based on the VA classification?
Yes, fantastic. So when we're talking about being able to receive 100% disability, right? Veterans, again, they have so many different injuries. Recording these injuries and possible stacking these injuries is going to possibly get you to that current state of 100% disability. But obviously, we're also fighting against VA math, right? That's one aspect, and that's going in a scheduler sense. And what that means is basically it's based upon all the conditions that you're service connected for. It equates in regards to the VA math terms to get you to 100%. Please watch our video in regards to VA math. You'll know we can provide you a little bit more in regards to that. But when we're talking about 100% disability, there's so many different ways. There's going to be a straight scheduler, permanent and total, where you reached it based upon your conditions that you're service connected for. There are, again, when we talk about TDIU, right? Total disability, individual unemployability, right? IU, where your service connected disabilities meet the criteria for IU and it has marginalized your gainful employment. So now you cannot be gainfully employed at the level you once were because of your service-connected disabilities. And then we have aspects of a temporary 100%. Whether if it's paragraph 28, whether if it's paragraph 29, whether if it's paragraph 30. There's many components on how to get to 100%. But that developmental action strategy needs to be put in place. And understanding that you could be able to garner some of the information that's needed here in these ebooks here.
Absolutely. Because, one of another type of misnomer here is that, hey, when you are 100% disabled, you can no longer work, right? So obviously you kind of just distinguished that those are two separate classifications. And now, how can veterans make sure if they were intending on still working and they wanted to be 100% permanent in total, that they will not be considered for the individual unemployability?
Well, again, being able to go after your benefits based on a scheduler basis, okay? What does that mean? That exactly means, again, being 100% based upon the injuries that were applied to yourself, where unfortunately, again, you have gotten so banged up and to the point where your body is receiving chronic pain, you're having mental illness, you're having, again, hearing issues, it's just whatever, right? To the point where, again, where you can no longer be able to survive without the chronicity of issues, right? Now you're able to get to the 100% because it is all equated over the VA math level of 100%. And again, we talk about VA math. Again, that's another component that we must uncover. But typically, again, it's just a component that's in the way of your 100% rating. But again, understanding how to navigate that. Again, get the assistance that's needed. Get the assistance that's needed, because it's not so easy as people want to tell. Oh, you need 200% to be able to get 100%. It's not that simple. It's different for everyone, okay? Based upon the percentages, based upon bilateral factors, based upon if it's a disease. But it's so many different that constitutes to that. But I will tell you this, again, being able to focus on your strategy and what happened in service, that will get you there. Okay, that's what gets you there.
No, absolutely. And you kind of cleared up a question that I had, right? Because we're talking about the VA math and we're looking at trying to get it on the basis of the scheduler. It's like, hey, well, I'm 50% for headaches. I'm 30% for a foot issue. I'm 70% for mental health, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, well, but I'm only at 90%, right? And, sometimes veterans think that, hey, I need to get 200% on the scheduler in order to get 100%. So that's not true there, right? It can, like you said, it's different for each veteran. It can be at 170% versus, or somebody else, it may take 210,
Yeah, it like I said, it really depends, because you can have 3 high value issues and it's 100% there, and it doesn't equate to that much. It really depends. You can have one issue at 100% rating and it's only 100%. Okay, so it varies for each veteran. Now, going through the necessary development action plans on how to get there, that's going to be totally up to your file, your military service. Okay, and I'll tell you right now, veterans who enter service and was discharged medically or was received a general discharge and got out early, you guys are not exempt either. Okay, you can be able to receive those benefits as well. So don't take this as something that you don't have the offering. But again, check out the ebooks that could be able to support your pathway there.
Absolutely. Definitely a very good guide there. And now when you're applying for service connection, obviously some veterans may get denied and they are required to apply more than once, right? And so there's some different type of appeal processes that veterans could enter into based on different factors there. So now if a veteran applied and they had some conditions denied, what would you usually recommend? And can we just kind of talk about the different types of appeal processes that they could potentially pursue there?
Great question. When we talk about appeals, veterans, there are several appeal processes. However, the appeals process is going to depend on your case file. Okay, it's not necessarily it's not a one-stop shop or cookie cutter type of event. No. There may be a reason to take a supplemental pathway. There may be a reason to take a higher level review, or even if it got to the Board of Veterans of Appeals, where you're appealing it with the BVA in Washington, D.C. with a law judge. Okay, so when we talk about that, it really depends. Okay. But I'll tell you this, there's going to be those three factors in how you're going to be able to appeal. There's going to be a supplemental aspect component of it, and that's where you're going to need additional evidence, okay, new and relevant evidence that's going to be able to get you access to that appeal. And then you're also going to need when you talk about a higher level review, is going to be able to have decision officers, right, take a look at your file and re-review it based with the evidence that's already, and also basically re-reviewing your file with the evidence that has already been submitted. And then we have the BVA, the Board of Veterans of Appeals. That's a doozy. That's a special one. That one there That is going to take a longer video, but I'll tell you this: that process there, there's so many different components that we want to take a look into. This is where, when we talk about the buddy statements, when we talk about the informal conferences, when we talk about all the applications to be able to apply to support your claim, we're going to need to pull out all the stops here. Okay, but it all depends in regards to your case file. So honestly, you would need to get the support that you need to be able to kind of uncover that.
Absolutely. So now when applying, whether it's for initial claim or for denied conditions, veterans sometimes may need help when applying for service connection. So there are a few options, right? You could go through a VSO, you can go through different lawyers, or you can go through a different consulting, or even different educational guides that you can pursue as well. So now, what should veterans be looking for when choosing someone to help them with their claim?
Are you accessible? Are you accessible? Can I reach you when I need you? And if I can't, how can I reach you in a timely manner? Because when we're talking about going through the claims process and you need the support isn't just how can you support me through this process in a more of an emotional standpoint as well, because it is a roller coaster, you guys. Okay, it could be a roller coaster. And when we're talking about all the things that are happening within the government here today in 2025, listen, there's so many different things that are happening. You're going to need the additional support, whether if it's evidentiary based or whether if it's, again, the emotional base as well. Find someone that cares. We care. There are VSOs that care. There are even lawyers that care. But I can tell you right now, we care. Not only about you, but the veterans who are your friends, who are your brothers and sisters in arms. So I'll tell you right now, find someone who cares.
Great advice there, Kenneth. Great advice. So now, for some final advice for veterans who are listening now, they could become frustrated about getting denied, right? They're recently denied, or they might just be even getting started with filing a claim for the first time. What is one piece of advice that you would give them when starting this journey?
Well, I'll tell you, there's so many different avenues and also objectives that you may have to go through. Be patient. Patience is key when we're talking about this process. Some veterans have been missing out on benefits for 25 years, 35 years. Some veterans have been missing out for 5 years. Allow your case to develop and actually go through the system and process as it should. Calling the VA multiple times isn't going to do anything. Okay? It's not going to support your file. Well, what I will tell you is utilize that time a little bit more efficiently and get the medical evidence that may support your case file, and also other evidence that may support you in your case file, and also get a support group around you that's going to be able to kind of go through this process. Don't stand alone. Join a community. And if you're looking for a community, we have a community for you. So get the help that you need and get with people that care.
Absolutely, man. Kenneth, this has been one of the most important episodes, right? Because as we mentioned earlier, veterans have been pursuing these benefits for years, or even if they just recently retired or discharged from service, they want to pursue these benefits, right? Getting 100% permanent and total, or just accessing VA benefits at the basic levels are very important to securing so many different types of benefits. I mean, you're talking about a recently discharged service member who wants to go back to school. Yeah, you could use your GI Bill, but also at at least 20% in most cases, you can utilize different vocational rehabilitation programs, right? That can pay for your schooling that way. And then, of course, even just at that 10%, we know how that impacts the VA loan, right? And for some veterans who do not qualify for medical coverage based upon their time of service and different factors, well, being service connected can be their pathway to receiving those medical benefits. So again, very, very important here. And that's why we created the ebook, right? We created an ebook that kind of just gives you a real guide towards getting this process started. You know, it could be overwhelming. Again, we didn't make it where it's 250 pages, right? Where it can be too convoluted and too complex. Really simple, basic guide that gives you the key information that you need, right? So obviously, information's on the screen, vetsforvetsinfo.com. You can receive that guide here today. Definitely access that. Join our community like Kenneth was talking about. And we also have other content in there as well that breaks down different parts of service connection as we do on YouTube, and also the different types of disability benefits that you receive. When he talked about education benefits, you know, talking about insurance, we have comprehensive videos that Kenneth has conducted on those different topics in other learning series as well, right? But right now, hey, the focus is on getting started, and the focus is on understanding how you access these benefits here. And this ebook, Maximizing VA Benefits, is going to help you with that.
True indeed. True indeed. Listen, veterans, at the end of the day, it's your service. Now it's time to receive your benefits. You are a treasured person here, okay? Do not let anything else defer that, okay? Understand who you are as a veteran. You served this country. You did the time. You are a cut above, okay, 1% of the 1%. So when I tell you right now, it is time to really get with the organization and someone who cares and also cares about your service. So with that being said, I think this is time to let the veteran know.
Absolutely, let them know.
Well, I'll tell you this, Veterans for Veterans, we care. And we are always going to care. We're going to care about you. We're going to care about your family. So now, with that being said, let's go ahead and take advantage of the service that you serve. And now let's go ahead and access those benefits you deserve.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching. Prepare to compete. We're out. Peace.